Welcome to the application roadmap. Our goal is to help families meet and beat all the deadlines, eliminate parent nagging of kids, and make for happy families. So that's what we're going to do. As we're getting ready to do that, we've got a couple handouts for everyone that you are able to download. Sometimes there's difficulty with GoToWebinar and downloads. If you find that you're having difficulty, just email us and we'll be sure that we get those to you via email. So not a problem, we can get those to you at a later time. We will be taking questions, so submit those through the question feature. If we don't get to your question, we'd be happy to email you a response after our broadcast, after our seminar has taken place. So for those people who joined us early, we had a Twitter-like challenge on the board that we're going to come back to. Before we get started, I just want to say, you know, nagging's not fun, right? So I want everybody that's listening to think about, when was the last time, parents, that you had to nag your children, or children that you felt nagged? I think everybody's going to think today, if you saw your kids. Unless your kids maybe are away at camp, then you probably didn't have to nag. So nagging's part of it. It's not fun. And unfortunately, we have to do it as parents. Sometimes it's not fun for a kid to be on the receiving end. So we have a step-by-step plan that if you follow it over the summer, you will be application ready almost completely by the time school starts, with just a few remaining pieces to do, and you will beat all application deadlines. So I'm gonna remove my face from the camera so you can concentrate on our content, and we will go ahead and just concentrate on what we have for you today. So this is a proven process. We have been doing this for the last, this is our 21st year. And it really does, if you follow our plan, going to reduce stress and get your student to beat the deadlines and be ready to be admitted to college. The other part of that too is you're going to find that many students are still working on applications in the fall of the senior year, which is never fun. So this will get kids to be able to enjoy their senior year, go to that senior homecoming, but also keep their grades up in the senior year. Some colleges do ask for grades to be submitted in January, so they want to see your first semester senior year grade. So it's important that we're working all the way through our senior year, and we've got to get good grades. So we can't just have that slacking senior year. As we go into attacking applications, there are two parts of the application. Remember, if you're just joining us, you can submit your questions as we go via the question feature, and be sure to download your two handouts. So the two parts of the app are the data part. This is the numbers, and this is the part that by the time we get to application season, it's pretty much set. So whatever the GPA is at the end of the junior year is the GPA with which we are applying to college. Same thing with the coursework taken. You will list in your application the courses you're taking your senior year. Those do impact admission, but those are already selected. Class rank, if your school reports it, and I know some of you, I'll get somebody asking the question every time, so I'll beat you guys to it. What if your high school does not report class rank? Not a big deal. That does not hurt you in terms of admission. And then I'm hoping, if you've been following our advice throughout the sophomore and junior year, that you are finished taking your ACT, SAT, SAT subject test, your AP tests are done, and we don't have to worry about it. So really, ideally, we're at the point where we don't have to worry about the data portion of the applications. Some of you might still have some testing to do. That's okay. Ideally, we want you to get that wrapped up as soon as possible. The other part of it, and that's what we're going to focus on over the summer months when we're doing applications, is the voice. So the form that the voice takes is the personal statement, so AKA the essay, and there's one main essay, biographical in nature, personal statement that goes out to all of the colleges. So that is the one that we're talking about when we say personal statement. Your resume, that is what you have pursued, how that relates to your future goals, what your activities are. Your letters of recommendation, while not in your voice, they are adding to your voice who you are in terms of what someone else has to say about you. any additional information, when I say additional information, and we're going to address this a little bit later in the seminar, is do you have something not reflected in the first three parts of the voice or the data that you feel the college should know, that you feel that is lacking in your application? And then finally, some of the colleges will have supplemental college essays. So all of those lend themselves to the voice part and the college really being able to get to know the applicant on the personal level. So as we look at the calendar of summer, there are basically two seasons that we're going to divide the calendar into. So we've got a pre-work and a post-work season. The application, the Common App, the Coalition App, individual college applications, for the most part, the Common App for sure, and for the most part on the others, they are launching on Thursday, August the 1st. So the Common App is open now. We're going to talk about the parts that you can do now prior to August 1st, and then the parts that we have to wait. Some of it has to wait until after August 1st. So that's the pre-work, post-work. Once August 1st hits, so we're going to have time that we can work up till about July 28th or 29th in the application, and then the Common App will close down for several days. And then it magically opens back up on August the 1st, and all the work that we do in the pre-work session is going to magically appear in the new 2019-2020 application. There will be some pieces that we still have to complete, but the work that we're advising you to do, we're going to let you know what can and should be done ahead of time, will then be in the application. So for most students, at least here in the greater Cincinnati area where I live, and I know we do have people from out of state on, and I know kids get out of school. Some students that I'm working with in other states are still in school in June every year. So in Cincinnati, school gets out around Memorial Day. That means that school in the greater Cincinnati area, for the most part, starts sometime among these 2 weeks, between these 2 weeks, the week of August 12th or the week of August 19th. So school's starting over there. So when the Common App launches on August 1st, and we have those post-work pieces that can only be tackled after August 1st, even the students who have the earliest school start date of August 13th or 14th, you have about 2 weeks almost that you can get some of this post work done. Some of you have even longer. So of course, some of it's gonna, go on into September, but not much if you really follow the plan. Now, human nature is to tackle what's easiest and most pleasurable first and put the hard part off till later. I know it. When students sit down to do homework, this is part of what we address in our tutoring all the time. If they love math, they tend to do their math homework first, and then they go ahead and get to the painful, maybe writing an essay or something like that later, or vice versa. So what we're going to advise students to do is tackle the hardest part of the application first. So what is that? Well, this was a survey conducted of 14,000 seniors who had just completed their college application cycle. And by far, this blue section right here indicates the essays were what they said was the hardest part of completing their college applications. When they say essays, they might be referring, we don't know. I wasn't part of this. I wish I could conduct a survey that large, but we don't know if they're referring only to the personal statement. I think it probably also includes college supplemental essays, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but those would be all they have in terms of essays. If you knew what portion, it looks like almost 50%, doesn't it? It was over 48%. It was like 48.8 or something like that percent of students said that the essays are the hardest part. We're advising that our students that we're working with and who hear our voice and get our message, make sure that they complete their personal statement prior to the August 1st launch of their application. The second hardest part, they said, of the college application process, actually, the red represents ACT and SAT testing and prep. So if I were conducting this and making it only about applications, I probably would have taken that question out, because to me that is test prep and testing, which comes before the application process, but they were sort of viewing the whole process in one lump. The next hardest part, they said, was in the green, getting the high school transcript sent to the colleges and the recommendation letters. Now, That actually is one of the easiest parts. So for the students who identified that, which looked to be a good, 20 some percent, for those students who indicated that that was the hardest part, I would say they probably had a teacher who did not get the recommendation letter done in time. They maybe requested their transcripts too late, or their guidance office didn't get them submitted in time. Something probably went wrong with that process, because it's pretty easy process, and we'll talk about why it's easy in a little bit. The purple, where to apply. So I know there are people that are listening to the seminar today that they don't even know everywhere they're going to apply to yet. They've got some schools that they'll definitely apply to, and they're looking for schools. So we're here to help if you need help on finishing out that college list. But that was under 20% felt that that was the most challenging part. And finally, filling out the application itself, which frankly I just don't understand, and you're not going to understand either by the time I get through even the next few slides of our presentation. So our advice: tackle the hardest part first. The personal statement, if at all possible, should be completed prior to August 1st. So let's talk about that essay. So the personal statement essay, we are going to take a moment right now, and I want everybody to, if you've downloaded the handouts, I would like you to please go ahead and read the essay. And I'm going to put it up here on the board for a second too. So I want everybody to just take a minute and read this. Okay, hopefully everybody had a chance to get through most of that. So that essay, if you have thoughts about it and you want to submit it through the question feature, I'd love to hear them. The last time that we hosted this seminar, this application roadmap seminar, I asked for feedback. We were live in person, and my favorite one was a dad who said he was sneaky good. You wouldn't think that a story about tying the string around the box could actually find the voice of the student, but it did. It was amazing and very, very, very effective. So, as we already read the essay, so I want to show you some of the comments, and this is what the admissions committee had to say about this. This student's voice definitely came through in this essay. She cleverly incorporated two types of string into her writing, and it really showed her ability to overcome a challenge as well as her quirky sense of humor. She also used the space effectively to tell me a lot about who she is, her love of music and science, her dedication to a part-time job, and her ability to put things in perspective. Even though the actual topic itself, learning to tie string around bakery orders, seems narrow in scope, it allowed me to really get to know her through her writing. So pretty amazing, and I agree with this. So one of the things that you're going to notice about this, and one of the things that we show students when we're working with them on their essays, whether it's in our essay workshop or one-on-one, is that the best essays actually tell a story. They feel like a personal narrative, but there has to be a so what. So I was working with three different students just today on their essays, and I read some good stories, and a couple of the kids I had to say, so what? But what are you going to do now? That happened to you, but how does it impact who you are, your future, or where you're headed, or what did you do with that lesson that you learned? And you've got to have that so what incorporated. So many of you that are with us, your kiddos started their essays in class, in their English class at school. When that's the case, I'm going to tell you approximately 80% of the essays that I find that are started in school English class are completely discarded. One of the number one reasons is every kid walks in, and if you're a parent and you're on here and this is a good quiz that you can give to your kiddo when you get a chance, is say to your kid, hey, did you start something in English class? Can I see it? So I want you to see, like, is it in story format? I bet you at the top of it, it says prompt number 5 or prompt number. So back in the winter, the Common App and the Coalition App announced what their essay prompts for their personal statements were going to be for the 2019-20 application cycle, so kids could get a head start on their essays over the summer. A mistake that many kids do is they choose which prompt they want to write to, and then they start to try to shove their story into a prompt. Instead, if you simply go ahead and find your story, I guarantee you it will fit one of the 7 available prompts in the Common App or on the Coalition App. Frankly, prompt number 7 is a topic of your own choosing. So anything would fit that. But even aside from that, I guarantee you, and this is an exercise we do in our application workshop, is we give students an essay that is, it was published in the New York Times as one of the top essays for 2012. We tell the kids to read it, then we give them the 2019-20 essay prompts, and we say, first of all, what did you notice? They give us feedback on the essay. And then we say, which prompt do you think that this student was writing towards? And there's usually 2 of the 7 that get chosen by kids. Sometimes there's a third that gets thrown in there. And then when I tell them, guess what? This was from 2012, and the prompts are not the same in 2019. They're shocked. So the lesson there is, find your story, find your voice, figure out what you want to communicate, figure out the story you want to use to express that, and then see what prompt it happens to fit. It might be just number 7, which is a topic of your own choosing. So look at, if your child has a start, look at that first, compare it to what you now have in a PDF as an excellent sample to see, do we throw it out? Do we rework it? A lot of times I find what the student values from that, and then we just take that value and rework it. So what are we going to do with that? So with that said, LEAP does offer one-on-one follow-up to essay, our group essay workshop. That was us in action last year. And we do offer one-on-one coaching, whether you're starting from scratch, you're in the middle, or you're at the end and you just need another set of eyes on it. So, okay, so that's the hardest part that you're going to start tackling. And for some kiddos, that part's going to take 5 or 6 weeks to get into a final copy. I'm not kidding. Even decent writers are going to probably take 2, 3, 4 weeks, just because they're going to need several revisions. They have a word count maximum, 650 words, that they need to stay within. So it can be difficult. While you're doing that, so while you're doing the hardest part, let's talk about an easy part to do. So let's talk about ACT and SAT scores. So many colleges offer what they call a super score. So a super score is taking the best of your ACT or SAT, not and or, but or ACT or SAT, and computing a new super score. So in this case, I sometimes come across families who think that because their kid tested 2 times or 3 times or 4 times that they definitely have a super score. Sometimes a kid could score or test 4 times and they still don't have a super score. So the way that you calculate super score, so when everybody, once you know you're finished testing, or whether even maybe you're at a juncture where you're trying to decide, hey, do we test one more time? First thing I want you to do is compute your super score. So the way you do that is you take your highest English score, you take your highest math score, your highest reading, your highest science, you add them all up, get a sum, divide by 4, in this case 27.5, and when you're doing ACT, 0.5 always rounds up to the next number. So this student actually does have a super score because their first ACT was a 24, their second ACT was a 27, and their super score, this is an actual LEAP student by the way, their super score rounds up to a 28. So how does that work? Well, so for instance, local to Greater Cincinnati is Miami University. They super score, where currently University of Cincinnati and Ohio State would be 2 schools that don't super score. So what Miami University would have you do is send the first set of scores, by the way, that's $13 via ACT online with your credit card. Send your second set of scores, another $13 online with your credit card. So now we're at $26. And then Miami University will do the math to give you your super score. So ACT does not do that. SAT does not do that. That is done in the admissions office at the university. Now, if in this case, obviously, if the kid was applying to Ohio State, they would just send the second score, which is the highest score. And then you're only spending $13. Which leads me to how much does the average application cost? The average application costs $50. So on average, you're going to spend $50 per school that you apply to. So in this case, let's say that it's a school that the application fee is $50, and then this student is applying to super score school, say that 3 times fast, and they'll have to send these two. They're at $76 to apply to this university. The application process, just the fees alone, are costly. One of the newest trends in admissions, though, is saving people money that I'm going to tell you about in just a sec. So when you are completely finished testing, you can submit your test scores anytime. I get families asking me all the time, does it matter if we submit the scores before we're submitting the application? Or if they get a recommendation letter before our application, or what does it matter what order things come in? It does not matter what order the pieces of your application come in. So if you're finished testing and you want to go ahead and send scores, then you can do that at any time. That's super easy. Just be sure you do it. A few years back, I had a family that I'd been working with on essays mainly. And on December 2nd, I was in Kroger and this family happened to have my cell phone. Phone rang. I said, hey, how are you? At this point, December 1st had come and gone and we should be done. And the student was a student athlete, and they tend to, people in the arts where they have to audition, like musical theater or student athletes, they tend to apply to more schools because they may not know where they are going to get an offer yet. And they're kind of auditioning to get in as well, not just their academics. And the mom of this student applied to about 20 schools because volleyball was in play. And she had a 33, I think it was, on her ACT. It was high. It was in the 30s. And then they go ahead and she said, well, I forgot to submit the scores to one school, University of Cincinnati. So it's December 2nd. December 1st was the deadline. What do I do? I said, you do nothing. If you miss any part of these deadlines, it doesn't matter. So that student, while she was able to submit the scores still to be admitted to the school, she was not considered for their scholarships because they had a December 1st scholarship deadline. So that's another thing to note. Scholarship deadlines, and application deadlines can be different. So they are, I have a question here from Caitlin. What about submitting scores the last time you take the test? I believe it is free, but it might not be your highest. Okay, so what Caitlin is asking, and she is not from Ohio, wants somebody from out of state. Caitlin's saying, okay, what if I've got my application in and I'm going to test one more time, and I'm just going to send them for free? She brings up a good point. It may not be your highest. So to me, I like to see scores before I submit them. I've had enough clients over the years that something goes wrong on test day. My own daughter, when she took her first ACT, she was well prepped, had 102 fever, tested positive for influenza A. Was on Tamiflu, the whole 9 yards. So, with that said, we don't know when we're going to have an off day. So I just personally don't like sending in scores that might look really bad. They say it doesn't matter and they're only going to take their highest score, but I just prefer not to show poor scores. So good question though. Okay, now let's talk about how to maybe save some money on this. So the latest trend, fastest growing trend and latest trend in college admissions are colleges that allow you to self-report your scores and not send in official $13 per score report scores unless you decide to attend their university. So our friends at compassprep.com, that's test prep, and it's on the other side of the country from me. They keep an up-to-date list of colleges that allow students to self-report test scores. I predict, we're right now talking at the beginning of June. This list will continue to grow until August of schools that are going to allow you to do this. So what happens is in the Common App, students are able to, they're given the opportunity in the testing section, which I'm going to show you in a second, to self-report their ACT or SAT, and what you do when you do that is you super score. So you tell them the highest English score you had, the highest math score, et cetera, et cetera. The schools that allow self-reporting basically said, be honest in that section, because if we admit you based on your self-reported scores and you then decide to enroll here in the spring and pay your deposit, at that time you will have to send us an official score report or reports that prove that that was your actual score. And if it doesn't match, then we might say you're out. So the nice part is, let's go back to our scenario where we have $50 application fee, super scoring school, $76 total, and we go ahead and do self-reporting. We're going to save a third. So you're saving, a third of the cost of applying to that school. So I can go over and show you real quick. Let me see if I can do that. So I had it pulled up earlier. So on the Compass Prep, here you have the list. If you just Google Compass Prep self-reporting test scores, here's the list of colleges that allow you to self-report your scores. So you put them in your Common App or your Coalition app, and that's all that they're asking you to do unless you actually decide to enroll in their university. And this is a rapidly growing list. I love it because it's a way that, be careful of the ones with the asterisk, it's a way to help families save money on college. And we're always looking, we believe that college planning is retirement and financial planning. So we need to make really good choices. So right now, 124 schools that they are aware of. So keep that in mind. Okay, catching right up here. Okay, so another thing that you can do is, I already told you that we can go ahead and start our application. Now, this is, you see green and orange at the top because this is about data and voice. So when you go to the Common App site and create your account, and once that's created and you log in, this is a screenshot of what you will see here, okay? These are the different sections of the main app. So the application is open now through approximately July 28th, 29th. And then, like I said, it's going to close down for a few days. Then everything that is completed under this tab. So this is where I want you to work. So if this is what's across the top, I want students working only in what's under this tab. You are not to work under this tab, My Colleges. Anything in the My Colleges tab will not roll over on August 1st. So you can put every college you're applying to, fill it in, answer all their questions. They ask a lot of questions. You know, what major are you applying to? They might have additional essays. Do you qualify for in-state tuition? Are you going to live on campus? Are you applying to the honors college? You could answer all those questions for all your colleges, and when you log in on August 1st, all of it will be gone. The only thing that stays is what's under the Common App tab itself, okay? So we're going to go through, and not even everything under the Common App tab can be completed. So let's walk through that. So profile and family sections. If your kids are like my teenagers, they will watch a lot of Netflix. So I tell kids all the time, the profile and family sections are so simple that you can go ahead and complete those on your own while you're watching Netflix. It doesn't require that much attention. What's your address? What's your parents' names? Who are your siblings? All of that. So, okay, so got two questions. I'm going to stop for just a sec. So, one question. Can or does a parent and student share the same Common App account? A parent does not have a Common App account. A student does have a Common App account. Students, so there's two ways if parents want to look at their students' Common App. You can ask your child for their login, email, and password, and log in, and you can see what you would see is like what we see here, okay? Or students are allowed to, under the My Colleges tab, once they've signed the FERPA release. So FERPA, for those of you that don't know, is the HIPAA of education, okay? Every time we go to the doctor, got to sign a new HIPAA, or at least acknowledge that they offered to let you see the document, and we all turn it down. I think only 18-year-olds the first time they're asked to look at it. So FERPA, students sign off, say I'm waiving my rights, that my recommendation letters can be sent, my transcript can be sent. Under that same area within the Common App, a student can add an advisor. So I have my students that I'm working privately with on application completion. They add me as an advisor. I never get their password, so I can't actually change anything in their application, but I'm able to review it and either talk to them or send them an email and say, hey, made a mistake here, or hey, I think you would better highlight your accomplishment worded this way, but I can't actually change it. They can also add their parents in the same way. So that's under the FERPA and recommenders section. Is what you're looking for under the My Colleges tab. So Melissa is asking, how do I get to this page? So when you log in, once you've created your account, and you actually log into the Common App, it will start you out at your dashboard, and then dashboard, My Colleges, Common App, College Search, and Financial Aid Resources are all tabs. And so you would just click on, select this Common App tab, and it would bring you to this page. And you could be on the profile section, and you could click address and then go fill out the address section. And then you could jump down to language. So you can skip around, and what you'll see is once you've completed something, you get the green check mark, okay? So you get the green check mark. So profile and family is a no-brainer. Your kid's written a rough draft of their personal statement. They're waiting for professional guidance, feedback from us on that. They're watching a Netflix, whatever they're binge watching, the latest, I wouldn't want to even guess. And they can have their computer up and complete the profile and family sections without even putting any effort into it. It's that easy. They also can, if you're finished, done testing, go in and complete the testing section. Remember, this is where you're going to super score your ACT and SAT. It's optional. You don't have to report any scores in the testing section if you don't want to. You could leave the entire testing section blank, and occasionally I'll have a client that I'm working with on applications that I will advise to do that because they've got something that just they don't want to report. They have a score that I'm like, let's not report that, or we don't want that to be seen. Okay. Another thing is they give you an opportunity to put AP testing and future AP testing, as well as future ACT, SAT, and SAT subject tests. At AP scores, and I belong to professional organizations that include college admissions officers as well as people like me, independent college counselors and high school counselors, school counselors, all of it. And there was a thread in one of our groups, somebody asked the question, colleges really aren't supposed to be using AP scores for admission purposes. It's really just to earn college credit. And somebody was concerned that a particular college was starting to use AP scores for admission. And I read the whole thread, and no college was doing it. So you can list AP scores. It doesn't really matter if you list them or don't list them. They're going to see on your high school transcript that you took an AP class. So usually I say just go ahead and list what your score is. Okay, let's talk about the activities section. So this section, those three sections are a piece of cake. This section is not. So for those of you who joined us early, before I started to broadcast, I had a Twitter-like challenge on the board. So the activities section, here's the deal. If a student has participated in more than 10 activities, they can only choose 10 to list in their Common App. Now, it's possible to get creative. Sometimes when we are working with students, I'll say, you know what, you've got so many things that I want in there. Like today I told a student, we're going to combine your high school soccer. We're going to just put all soccer under one category. Club soccer, volunteering, teaching camps, and your high school team, so that we have room to work in some of your other activities. Other times you got to get more creative. I mean, that's kind of an obvious one, right? But sometimes we got to get more creative than that. So we also have to get maybe creative in how we're wording things. So you only get 10 activities to list. And one of the changes coming from Common App that they announced to us 10 days ago in an email that they sent out to counselors was they're going to put new verbiage on this page. I don't think it's going to change how we interface with the Common App, but there's going to be new verbiage that says, I've always known this, but it's not always clear on the application, that you should list your activities in importance to you. Now, some students will just go, oh, well, their sports team or marching band or whatever it might be is their favorite. Or sometimes I'll look at the 10 activities list and the kids are supposed to rank them in order, and I'll see, volleyball, high school volleyball, club volleyball, teaching volleyball, volunteering at volleyball camp. Then I'll see an internship related to their future career. Then I'll see something else. I'll say, wait. We are too heavy volleyball at the top. Let's mix the volleyball in, among other things. So the order of the activities, it's really an opportunity with your voice again to say, what do you want to resonate with the college? So the 10 that you choose, how they're worded, and the order that they appear is very important behind closed admissions doors. So you get 10 activities, 5 academic honors, ranked in importance, and this is where the Twitter challenge came in. You only have 150 characters, including spaces, to sum up. So here, and this is on the PDF, the note-taking PDF that I have for everybody to download. Here's an actual student, went to Mason High School, was involved in the sports radio for all 4 years. This is everything they'd want to say, a lot more than 150 characters, including spaces. And so we had to work it down, and every activity has to get worked down to 150 characters. So this is what we came up with. I'll let everybody read it for a second. Senior leader of Mason High School Sports Radio. That was the title. That did not count that towards the 150 characters. broadcast live sporting events to listeners, populate sports radio Twitter page with content for 3,000 followers, 100% increase in follower count. So that was something measurable, and I said that was really important, was the growth of the Twitter account. The fact that it was live broadcasting. So this got it down to 144 characters with spaces. So I know there are people on here that are going, oh my gosh, we've got way more than that. I don't know how we can sum it up in 150 characters. That's too challenging. What do we do? Some schools, actually 1/3 of colleges, require or recommend the uploading of a full resume to the application. The University of Cincinnati would be one of them. So let's just use the University of Cincinnati, and everybody, I know I've got people on from all over the country, but when I'm talking, most of my listeners are from the greater Cincinnati area, so I just use local examples. I have no preference to these schools. So let's go with the University of Cincinnati. They allow an upload of a resume. Now, if I had a student that they only have 8 activities to list and 3 honors, I would not have them upload a resume. Resumes that are like, it's an option, not required, I only do an upload if we have more than the 10 activities or we have a lot of depth that we couldn't get expressed. Then I say, let's have an actual resume. Now we're not limited on characters and we can really make you shine, and then we'll upload that. So this is an opportunity to fully explain, give even a louder voice to who you are. And I recommend that everybody does a resume, because even if the colleges, let's say you apply to a list of colleges and none of them allow for an upload of a resume, which is done within the Common App, by the way, you still are going to want to use that resume to give it to the people who are writing your recommendation letters. So you will get a better letter, and I'll give an example in just a second. So here's a question. Is it 150 characters for each activity? Yes, it's not 150 characters for all. So for each of the 10 activities, you get 150 characters, counting spaces, for each activity to describe it. So it is quite challenging. And if you joined us late, use the download and try to come up with your own way of doing this, or open your Twitter app, because that's an easy way to keep character count to see where you are. So, okay, moving right along. Something else we can do in our pre-work before August 1st. So when you get to it's actually the very end of everything of the main Common App application, then what it asks is basically, it's this box, is a screenshot from there, but it's basically saying, hey, do you have something that's not reflected elsewhere in your application that you think we should know about? Sometimes students feel that they need to put something in there. Believe me, these college admissions officers are reading thousands and thousands of applications. They don't want one extra thing to read that's not necessary. So do not use this unless absolutely necessary. Now, here are some examples on the screen. I had a client recently ask me about disclosing being on in 504. And I said, well, it depends. And so we had a conversation about that to decide whether to put it on or not. We decided not to put it on. But I have, I have lots of people that I say, yes, do put that on. A number of years ago, this student is out of college and married at this point. Her transcript showed a dip in her grades winter of her sophomore year, the second semester freshman year through second semester sophomore year. When that dip was on there, I knew that her mom was diagnosed with breast cancer and then ultimately a year later passed away, unfortunately. So we use the additional information. Sometimes students are tempted to share the hard story. So let's just go with that girl. Her mom passed away. Sometimes students are tempted to share the hard story in their personal statement, and that doesn't always have to be. I don't say to not do it, but what I want students to understand is you're more than the hard things that happen to you. And I'm not going to say don't do it for sure, but consider whether you want to share something else or something more positive. I will tell you this, if I read one more, I didn't make the team and it turned out okay, I'm going to scream. Too cliche, don't go there with that, okay, for sure. And I've seen 3 of them already in this application cycle, and I say absolutely not. I don't know that drug use or suicide attempts are necessarily belong in this portion of the application, in the application maybe at all. So that's a conversation that maybe we should have if you're thinking about that. So, but you don't use this just because you feel the pressure to use it. You only use this if you really need to tell them something. Okay. So the education tab is challenging. So we talked about the activities. Once you get them down to 150, characters, you're gonna check that off the box. Writing, we're writing the personal statement. We're maybe doing or not doing the additional information. Courses and grades, real quick on that one. Some schools, Ohio State being one of them, require, and I really can't stand this, require that students go into that last section. So if you add under my colleges, Ohio State or Purdue, there's a handful of schools, you go ahead and you put them in there, then you are going to see that it now says you are required to go back, and every single class you took for high school credit has to be listed under this courses and grades section. It is basically replicating your transcript. My personal opinion is it's a waste of time, because the school still has to send the transcript, but that's the way it is. It's not like with the self-reporting ACT scores where you can self-report the scores and then you don't send them until you go. You still are sending a transcript even if you self-reported your courses and grades. So it seems a little silly, but for those schools, you're going to have to do that. The education tab can be tricky, and here's why. It's going to require that you know your current GPA that will be on your transcript. It requires that if your school reports class rank, that you put your class rank in there. You also have to know your senior year schedule. So under the education tab, courses and grades, by the way, are only for completed courses. So through the end of the junior year, or this, if you're doing summer, summer school or college credit plus over the summer, that would go in here. So, just if you're working on this, even in June and July, you act like you're doing it. You answer the questions as if it's August. So under the education tab, it says current year or most recent year courses. That is not asking for your junior classes. Remember, we're pretending that that is after August 1st, 2019. And so you would be listing your senior year courses. You have to list, if you have a semester long class, you have to list what semester you're taking that class in. So nobody has their senior year schedule yet. So that is one section that will not be fully checked off probably until the post-work period after August the 1st, okay? Okay, so August 1st, what's gonna happen August 1st? So on August 1st at 12:01 a.m., when you set your alarm and you wake up and you quickly log into your Common App because you're so excited to get started on what's new in the Common App, ha ha ha, you're going to see if there are any new questions. When you open it up and you log in and you're over here, all of a sudden, like let's say they create a whole new section, all of this would be here and then the new section would be listed as well. They're not doing that, but that would happen. So let's say they decide to ask a new question about residency. It would appear and you'd have to go in there and you have to answer any question that's new in the 2019-20 cycle. At this point, Common App has not told us that there will be any questions that are specific. They have said they're going to reword some of their instructions and things like that, but I know of no brand new questions. Once you get you'll get your schedule, between August 1st and when school starts. You don't get your schedule the first day of school. Then once you get that schedule, you can go in and now you can complete your courses that you're taking for your senior year. Now, as soon as August 1st has hit, you can go in and let me go back again. So you can add your colleges. You go to the college search tab, you type in the name of the college, it comes up, you click a box, you put add, okay? Then when you come over here and click on the My Colleges tab, you've got the My Colleges. You can only have 20 colleges under the My Colleges tab. I hope none of you are applying to 20 colleges. I only know that because I add colleges in for the students that I'm working with, so sometimes I have to delete a college to get somebody else's college in the list so I can preview questions and whatnot. Okay. I would suggest that you at this point, so once you've added the colleges in, now all of a sudden we're going to have supplemental essays, short essays that have to be written by the student. So today, for instance, I was working with a student who's applying to Purdue. I just showed them for an example what questions Purdue asked last year as their supplemental questions. There were 3 questions. One was up to 100 words, another was up to 250 words, and another was up to 500 words. So they're generally shorter. They are a bit more casual in nature most of the time, and there can be overlap. So a common one from the colleges is, why you're that college major. Why this college? Another one is what's your favorite activity that you pursue? Last year I had one student who, among the colleges he applied to, had 3 different versions of the what's your favorite activity question. So it just got tweaked for every one of the colleges. So what you're going to do is make a spreadsheet, list these essays, and then you're going to go ahead and look for any overlap where essays can be repurposed. And you are going to organize by deadlines. However, Common App does do this for you. So in the dashboard, it will sort your colleges by what your next application date is. But it will not do that until you select if you're applying early decision, early action. And I'm not going to get into that tonight. That's something for another time. And then once you know what these essays are, I really want everybody to tackle the supplemental essays ASAP between August 1st and the first day of school, okay? So school starts. Now what happens? So this was what you do from August 1st to your first day of school. You'll still be writing supplemental essays even after school starts, but the rest of that stuff at the top of the list, you shouldn't have to do. Okay, school starts. Your school will have a senior meeting. Attend your senior meeting. The one thing that I give no advice on is how to interact with your school counseling office on transcripts and recommendation letters. And the reason for that is every school's a little bit different in how they do that. Your school will have rules. So some of them will say, some of them are still using Naviance, and they'll say, we want transcript request and recommendation request coming in through Naviance. Another school might say, we want you to fill out this pink form for transcript requests, but you request your recommendations within Naviance. Somebody might say you're going to hand in the green form for transcript requests, and you're going to request your recommendations through Common App. So there are many different ways to skin this cat. None of them are right or wrong, but you need to do what your school says. The other thing is you can count on this. Your school is going to tell you that they're going to need 2 to 3 weeks lead time before your deadline to get your transcript in. Recommendation request, I encourage students to do right after Labor Day. Don't hit your teacher with this stuff first day of school. Give them a copy of your resume. And somebody did submit a question on teacher recommendations. Can we get a recommendation from a teacher or tutor outside of a school who provided an enrichment in math or science? It depends on the college. So colleges, every college in the dashboard will tell you what recommendations they require and what they allow. So there's require and allow as far as it goes for recommendations. So a college might say, we require a school counselor recommendation and 1 teacher, but we'll allow, 2 outside people. So the enrichment teacher would be, or a coach, a scout leader, an employer. That would be an outside recommendation. So I don't know of schools that ever require an outside recommendation, but some will allow 1, 2, or 3. Some won't allow any. Ohio State's very stingy in how many that they will allow. So every college is different. And for those that do allow you to request somebody outside of your school system for a recommendation letter, that is done via Common App. You put in their information and then they get a link and they go ahead and do it all online. So you'll attend your senior meeting, you will follow the rules, and you will make sure that you give your teachers plenty of lead time on the recommendation, and then you're going to write them a really, really nice thank you note. And you're going to give your school counseling office, they're going to tell you at least 2 weeks, they might tell you more. And I'm telling you, they may not get it in. Remember at the very beginning, that poll that said what was the hardest part? Requesting transcripts and recommendation letters. If you follow the rules, it shouldn't be. And if you give them plenty of lead time, it shouldn't be. So, and while you're doing that, you keep writing your supplemental essays. Some of you may not have any supplemental essays. Supplemental essays, really, you're going to see those in the more selective schools. But I had a girl last year, she had 20 supplemental essays. There was some overlap among the 20, but she was applying the 2 Ivies in other highly selective schools, and ultimately is attending Johns Hopkins, but had a ton of essays to write. So we are coming up at the end of our hour together. So that went quickly. So we hope that this has equipped you to eliminate stress in your family, prevent nagging. I know I can't eliminate nagging. I wish I could, but I can't. Make for a much more pleasant summer, get ahead of the curve. We've got classes and workshops and even customized individual solutions if you want us to walk this out with you. It would be our honor to do so. You might want to try going at it on your own, and then if the nagging starts, then punt it over to us and we'll help you guys catch up. But don't wait too long because we fill up as well. So with that said, it looks like we don't have any more questions. We had great attendance. And I really thank everybody for sticking with us. Nobody dropped off the entire time, so I guess that says it was pretty valuable information. So feel free to stay in touch. You'll get a follow-up email that does have a link to the recording. You can share that with your friends, and it will also have links to like the self-reporting schools area and our other solutions that we have for you to help walk this out. So thank you, and let us know how we can help.